Hey. Welcome, everybody. This is the January 23rd Board of Supervisors meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, is there a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Motion.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
There are motions for the approval of the minutes of January 6th.
Motion.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Pat, could we have a report of executive session, please?
Sure, there was a brief discussion in the executive session before the public meeting regarding ongoing litigation. No decisions were made and the votes were taken.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Anybody have any comments on anything that's not on the agenda for this evening? That includes anyone on Zoom? Okay, that said, just a couple of announcements. First of all, we wanted to congratulate the three finalists for the 2024 Person of the Middle Smithfield Township Person of the Year, and we'll find out on Friday night who the actual Person of the Year is. So congratulations to Luz Gonzalez, Maria Oquendo, and Betty Ann Ricky. Maria Oquendo is actually married to one of the past finalists for Person of the Year. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors for that annual event that we have every year. So this year's sponsors, gold sponsor, Grimbean and Thatcher, thank you very much. Shealy Insurance, and bronze sponsor would be Prosser and Raven Entertainment, and Slate, Huffman, Electric, and VIP Photography. So thank you to those sponsors. Preview of 2025, which is a look ahead as to what's going to happen this year and all the plans that the township committees and departments have made, will be presented to the public. We do that every year. It is normally the second meeting of the month in February. We were trying to push for February 13th, but we also like to do a plaque presentation to the finalists for Person of the Year, and those plaques won't be ready till the end of the month. So we invite you to all come join us on February 27th for the preview of 2025. And that's all I have for announcements, unless anyone else has anything. Okay, Michelle, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Okay, and with that, we can begin with the public hearing, if everyone is prepared and ready.
Yep, so what we'll do, this is a continuation of the public hearing. Usha, what here?
We have some housekeeping items first.
But we haven't opened the hearing yet, so let me open the hearing.
Go ahead.
Motion,
A motion to open the hearing.
yes,
Is there a motion?
yes.
Okay.
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the hearing is, before I hand it over to you, Charlie, I have some housekeeping items as well. Unless you're telling me something.
Well, my housekeeping items are going through the transcript. It only lists in the beginning 4 exhibits rejected, and there were 6 on my record. The 5th one was my response to Mr. Putz's review. The 6th one was the uses by area that is shown in the transcript. Uses by area that was referring to. But I want to make sure that my response gets in the record somehow.
So why don't we address that? I'm looking at my notes, Charlie, and I have A1, deed for the property, A2, the application, A3, the plan before the PC, and on the transcript, it's the URDC plan. And A4 as the revised conditional use plan dated 12/9/24. And those seem to match up with the transcript. Now,
Well, the transcript does refer to like A6 though. Not my color.
well, I think we can clearly clarify that we haven't closed the hearing. You're capable of, if you have more than A1 through 4, identify them clearly tonight, have someone testify to them, and absent any unforeseen objections, I suspect they'll be entered, but you can clean that up when it's appropriate. Okay, does that make sense? But before we do that, again, this is the hearing, the continued hearing from the original hearing night of December 19, 2024. The continuation of the application, the conditional use application of Usha. What here?
Raj Investments.
As well as Raj Investments LLC, which is an application for a conditional use for a resort complex within the township. Before I hand it over to the applicant to continue to present their case and apparently clarify the record with respect to 1 or 2 additional exhibits this evening, for purposes of the township's exhibits or the board's exhibits, currently there's board 1 through 4. What we are going to add as board 4 is a copy of the certificate of posting of the property that was not identified at the last hearing.
What's that going to be? Or
I'm sorry, board 5. My math is great tonight. Board 5, which is the certification of posting. And what we'll mark as board 6 is a copy of the procedural time requirement waiver that was executed by the applicant at the last hearing. So with that, before I hand it over, my recollection was that the applicant at the conclusion of the last hearing was going to potentially revise the plans that were submitted. It's my understanding that maybe you do have some revised plans this evening to submit as exhibits. But before I'll let you proceed as you like, but before we get to those new exhibits, do you want to clarify for the record what you believe should be marked as applicants? Is it applicants 5 and 6?
applicant 5 is my response to, in fact, everybody, my response to Ben's reviewer. And then 6 was actually submitted last time, and it's here in the transcript. That's the review later. That's fine.
So what you're handing me and what you'd like to be marked as applicant
5
is a copy of the November 21st, 2024 correspondence from Charlie Wood addressed to the Middle Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. Correct?
That's correct.
And did you also want to submit?
It was submitted and it is in the record. If you read through the transcript, A6 is in there. But it's not in the cover.
Index. In the index,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But the testimony is in there. It's the list of uses by area that he testified to it. That control A6.
Can you identify the page in the transcript, Charlie?
Well, back toward the end of,
Yeah, let me help if we can go off the record for a bit. It should be. Still going to be in front of the, do something,
A6, but not A5, A6, page 1, 1923. You don't have a copy of that tonight, Charlie?
Probably haven't in my book here.
Carla? Is this it?
That looks like it. Yeah, that's it. But, I mean, it's submitted last time.
This?
Only 4 pages. It was 2 pages, 2 pages. 3 years. I was there. He was having a read, he was finding I gave the school the.
Handed them all the time. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what the applicant is submitting is applicant 6. Is a 3-page document titled Existing and Proposed Uses by Areas Grouped by Similarity of Planning.
I'm sorry, similarity,
Of planning.
thank you.
Paul, Smith, and performance. He provided here last month, but he's not sworn in then.
Sit up there, if you wouldn't mind, please, and before you sit down, raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Adam Smith,
Where are you employed?
Barry Eisen Associates.
What capacity?
Someone
Did you, my request, prepare a personal ID for your listening?
yes, I did.
And is this it?
Yes.
I'd like to present this as applicant 7. Sure.
That for me first. Yeah, and then you did this, I just wanted to put the exhibit sticker on for her, so she has the original exhibits. You should have the original exhibits.
Mark as exhibit 7.
Yep.
Are you a licensed professional engineer?
Yes.
How long have you been licensed?
Since about 15 years.
Do you have experience in land use, land development, applications, or permitting?
Yes, sir.
And is your firm employed by the applicant?
We are, yes.
Generally, for what purpose are you employed?
Or consulting and land use planning and site engineering.
Was your firm requested to assist the applicant with the application of Raj Investments conditional use approval?
Yes.
What is your role in that process?
Civil engineering, overseeing the plan preparation.
And was your firm asked to prepare an overall sketch plan?
Yes.
For the application? And do you have that sketch plan?
Yeah. We do.
This would be applicant eight. Three size copies.
It's a good place. Yeah, let's do the.
So that's the color version.
Thank you.
Michelle was complaining about you not giving them color copies.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I know
Thanks,
that.
Gabriel.
I didn't even get a black and white.
Michelle is more about them.
I give her the originals.
Okay. I'll do it. I'll mark up and do it. You can identify the. Give it to some teacher, I was just gonna go over these, well, I was gonna do that next. Yeah. Would you identify the plan by date it was made and last revision?
Well, the date that it was made is January 15th, 2025. Last revised January 22nd, 2025.
In your review, did you review, what items of the township's information did you review?
The zoning ordinance, the saldo, stormwater ordinance, sketch plan requirements, the resort complex requirements as well. In the zoning.
Right. Are you familiar with the resort property?
Yes, walk the property and be prepared for the plan.
Now let's walk through the plan a little bit. Explain by the colors, coding, what everything means.
Sure. So the. There's a blue area, which represents the existing resort buildings. Located on the, mostly on the north side of the lake. There is a green area, which represents areas that will be used for open space to preserve natural existing features. And the pink area represents the area proposed for the resort. There are also some darker pink areas that represent proposed buildings. We have shown multi-story resort units for hotel or apartments, employee housing, potential conference center, health spa, and multi-story resort. And an additional multi-story resort hotel apartments in the front. There are also stormwater management areas and the two existing lakes.
Is there any of that property shown there that's excluded from the resort overlay?
There's approximately 5.9 acres on the westernmost part of the site along Municipal Drive. It's separated from the rest of the tract by natural features, by a stream. So it's not really accessible from the rest of the tract. It's along Municipal Drive, and we're proposing that that area would not be part of the resort overlay.
The total parcels were there.
7 parcels totaling about 411 acres.
And do you know what the intention of the applicant is with respect to those parcels and their potential consolidation?
They will be consolidated.
And that it would be acceptable what's shown there on Municipal Drive.
Correct.
I'm sorry,
You
could you
identify on the
repeat?
plan the exterior.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? They're not going to be
They
consolidated?
will be
Well,
consolidated.
I didn't hear.
Parcel, the piece that's along Municipal Drive will not be consolidated.
Yeah. Okay,
What will have to happen when they're consolidated is that piece along Municipal Drive is one single tax parcel, part of another. Yes, subdivision. That was part of the consolidation, we addressed them. Did you identify on the plan the exterior boundary of the resort property?
Yes,
You also show the different zones of the property.
correct. So the area that's south of Lower Lakeview Drive is in the C1 zone, and the area to the north of Lakeview Drive is in the R2.
Are the adjoining properties shown on the plan?
Yes, they are.
Did you identify on the plan the existing structures and facilities? You said that you did.
Yes,
And have you identified the topography of the project property on the plan, noting areas of steep slope? That's where we can turn the map around.
yes, the contours are shown on this plan. We also have an existing features plan, those contours.
Charlie, did you want to mark this as an exhibit?
Mark it as exhibit A9, yes.
And what we're marking it as exhibit A9 is when I have it testify as photos. That's fine.
It is the existing features, site assessment plan,
thank you. Thank you.
and it is dated January 13, 2025.
You tell us what this depicts.
This plan shows the existing features on the site. The main entrance is off of Route 209. There are also several secondary entrances off of Lower Lakeview Drive. 2 lakes on the property. And you can see most of the buildings are primarily on the north side of Echo Lake. There's some employee housing on the northern part of the site, north side of Lower Lakeview Drive. There are also 2 water towers on the north side of Lower Lakeview Drive. There's wooded areas on the site. There are wetland areas that we've shown on this plan as well as on the sketch plan that we looked at. Steep slopes are in red. There's an existing golf course on the northwestern, I guess maybe that's more the kind of the middle part of the site, to the west of most of the existing buildings.
Well, I think what you said is you, going back to the other plan, you've identified existing water features, wetlands.
We have there. Let's see it better on this plan, but we had a biologist visit the site and identify areas where he observed wetlands.
So you did have to conduct a wetland investigation.
We did.
of the property.
We did, and this plan in green shows the wetland areas, also the 50-foot wetland setback.
And you have created on there areas that can be developed.
Yes, the areas in pink are potential development areas.
The areas that cannot be developed. What's the reason for that?
It's to protect existing natural resource features, streams, wetlands. There's streams and wetlands.
Does the plan show any proposed building footprints or locations of proposed buildings?
We do. That's the purple color. As I mentioned, employee housing. resort units for hotels or apartments, temple conference center, health spa.
Are these locations fixed or are they subject to adjustment to the plan development?
They would be subject to adjustment and development process after we do the detailed engineering.
How will the development of the work in phase scheduled?
So as of now, the owners are currently renovating a lot of the existing buildings on site. And phase one of the project would include updating the entrance, the main entrance on Route 209 to be in accordance with PennDOT standards. And the areas that are in front of the site would be part of phase one, health spa and one multi-story resort unit for a hotel or.
Do you have an idea?
Describe the existing access in work.
The existing access there is the main entrance is off Route 209, several secondary entrances off of Lower Lakeview Drive.
Does your plan show the existing roadway and parking area?
Yes,
And you show the proposed
yes.
roadway? Would the development plan show both the existing roadways and the driveways and the walking system joining those?
Yes.
And the plan acknowledge the requirement for subsequent land development approval application. As the further development yours. I would have to point out on the plan, the note before.
So plan note number 4 reads, any proposed site improvements will require preliminary and final land development plans and approvals in accordance with the Middle Smithfield Township SALDO. We also have plan note 6, which mentions that highway occupancy permits from Pennsylvania Department of Transportation will be required for any driveways proposed to access Route 209 and Lower Lakeview Drive.
Do you have an opinion as to whether the resort overlay plan meets the salary requirements of the schedule?
Yes, I think it does.
Do you have an opinion as to whether the application of the plan meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance division 61 resort complex?
Yes, I think it does.
Approved.
Questions? Okay. Section 6130B says any new resort complex, commercial resort development submitted for approval after the enactment of this section shall have fully coordinated site layout, stormwater management, utilities, trails, parking, and traffic access with other parts of the resort complex, commercial resort development. Maybe for the sake of conversation, we can kind of take those one at a time. So, from your standpoint, you could talk through some of the thoughts on site layout and how you arrived at the proposed layout.
Sure. So we subtracted out the areas where we observed wetland buffer and the riparian buffer. And the areas that are remaining, the owners would like to have open for potential development of the resort.
Stormwater management, there's appears to be some conceptual facilities shown. What went into the plan presentation on that? What background information was done to result?
Sure,
in
and
post plan?
of course, those areas haven't been engineered, but they're in the lower areas of the site where stormwater is draining through the site towards those general areas. So we thought it would be a good place for stormwater.
So,
Just one more question then.
was that?
Can I ask one more question?
Well, you'll have a chance to read, well,
It's related with that question. So,
that's fine.
reading the section 61-10 eligibility. The development shall do to the extent practical, maximum extent practical. Have you done? Show those things to the maximum extent practical at this point in time.
Yeah, so this is a high level master plan. We have not done detailed engineering. To do that would require a lot of investment. Detailed engineering.
Thank you. Utilities, you talk through how the site is currently served and, any anticipated alterations with proposed modifications to the site?
Sure, so, water is served with wells and water tanks on the northern portion of the site. It would continue to be served by such, but potentially we would need new tanks and new wells depending on how much water is used. And sanitary sewer is pumped to Route 209, and the plan would be to continue to do that.
Do you know where, sanitary sewer facilities are located on the property? Is it single pump station? Do you have any sense of what's currently located on the site?
My understanding is it's a single pump station, but I've never seen it.
Okay. Trails, are there any trails shown on the plan, any consideration for trail?
So in the existing condition, there's not a formal trail network. Proposed trails will be along the roadways.
So by that, you mean the internal roadways, is what you're saying?
Internally, yes.
Okay. Parking and traffic access, you've noted about, there's the comment on here about a highway occupancy permit being needed from PennDOT for any driveways proposed to access Route 209 and Lower Lakeview Drive. Do you know the current status on the two driveways and if they're permitted currently, or you don't know that? Okay. Was the intention on that note to include getting an updated HOP if required for those two driveways? Like when would that occur, if that would occur?
During phase one, when we would
Phase one being the
land development. So when we do land development, we would
so
upgrade
not
driveways
with
as needed.
not with the refurbishment of the current structures, it'd be whenever the next.
Yeah, the phasing goals, land development, the current stuff is being done.
Charlie,
Now with it.
we're just trying to get information here.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out the lack of information on how that's implemented. This resort goes back to the 40s. Before PennDOT had permits like that.
Right, but if it had been an iterative, if the use had expanded at some point, it could have been required here in the last 20, 30 years, right? I think it's still a valid question and something that comes up on a variety of projects. I mean, it's related to traffic access. That's why I'm bringing it up. The driveway to Lower Lakeview Drive, the existing one. Has there been any, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. Having driven through the site previously, it's a kind of unique geometry to get out of the site into the site.
Yes.
Any considerations to modifications to that at this point, or remain as is?
Not at this point, but in the future, we picked this location because we thought it had the best site distance for secondary.
Okay, so with the intention being that the more so the primary one and the other one to the east. Do you know what I'm saying? To the east, there's an existing one where the throat of the driveway coming in.
I'm
Yes,
sorry, the what to the driveway?
the
The
throat
throat,
comes directly into, and then basically tees like immediately. So it's, and the grade coming up. My
My
recollection,
opinion is when this is open, this would be gated.
that'd be gated. Okay.
If not, maybe PennDOT have us completely remove it, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, maybe PennDOT would.
PennDOT might have us completely remove it at that time, I don't know.
I think the last question I had this time was, are there any? Sorry, two questions. when you review the zoning ordinance, were there uses that are proposed currently that are not permitted in the underlying zoning district?
We will have testimony on that issue. No.
Are there uses that are listed that are not currently shown on this site plan?
There are specific, the locations
So-
of which aren't shown, you mean?
Correct.
We did not show the specific locations of every use that's being requested.
Okay.
Conditional.
Okay, so there are uses listed that are not practically depicted.
Right, so
Okay.
we do show the location of the uses that are a conditional use in the underlying zoning district, which would be the parking use.
Okay.
There are no other, there are no other uses that are not permitted by right that are not shown on that plan.
Okay, so the helipad is shown on there? That's a condition.
That's
Okay.
testimony coming up over.
Okay. Oh,
All the questions are removed from the plan.
sounds good.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I've got some, I don't know if the board members have any at this point.
Well, just a few, but let's see if there's
Okay.
what you have.
So you, Adam, you testified, I believe, with respect to what phase one is proposed to be, correct?
It would be the, correct, yes.
And phase one would be, did it include the existing structures or not? Meaning, did phase one only include the improvements to the entrance at Route 209 and the dark, can I call those purple? The purple rectangle identified as a health spa and the purple rectangle identified as the multi-story resort units, hotel or apartments.
So the existing resort is existing, so I was not referring to that as phase one. I was referring to the upgrading the main entrance and those two purple boxes that you mentioned.
Okay. And I think you testified, so the purple boxes in this phase one, we're calling it, in the, towards the access road on the 209 on applicant 8. Those are the approximate locations of the proposed health spa and the proposed hotel or apartments,
That's correct.
with the understanding that they'll be more specified at the time of land development.
Yes.
The existing structures on the property, does this applicant 8 depict what the uses are on or in the existing structures, which I believe are those that are depicted as white on applicant 8?
They're like, yes. The existing structures or resort uses. I'm probably not the best person to say exactly what's happening in each specific building. But
Okay.
general resort use that they've been used as for a long time.
Okay, but you don't know the specific uses of those existing structures on applicant 8 depicted as white?
I know that they're resort units, dining facility, but I just know the general use. I don't know which building specifically is used for, other than the resort units where people stay at are most of those buildings. There's a maintenance building. There are on the north side of Lower Lakeview Drive, the existing employee housing. South side is an existing maintenance building, resort units. In this area, all of these are resort units where the guests stay.
If the present use is important to the board, we can present some testimony that will show that in more detail.
Okay. There are other, what we'll call dark purple structures depicted on applicant 8. Did you testify as to what those are? I may have missed it.
Sure, yeah, I can go through them. So we have a total of 5 buildings that are referred to as multi-story resort units, hotel or apartments. There is employee housing. There's a potential conference center shown. Talked about the health spa. And there's a round building, which is an existing resort building that's going to be replaced with a meditation, yoga, worship building in the same footprint.
Okay. So if I'm looking at applicant A, the two long, slender, rectangular, dark purple depictions towards the center are either going to be, to your understanding, hotels or apartments?
Correct.
And then the more, it's shaped more as a square just above those, maybe right towards the middle of applicant A. I can't read that. What did you know what that is?
That's a potential conference center.
Potential conference center. And the circular purple building, that's the, what is that?
So that's currently a resort unit building where guests stay. It's being replaced with an area for meditation, yoga, and worship
Okay.
in the same footprint.
And then the dark purple rectangular building to the right of the circle on applicant 8. That's proposed to be employee housing.
Correct.
Do you know, are you the appropriate person to testify as to how the resort complex will be used and or the employee housing works with respect to the use? Are you the appropriate witness or not?
Probably not.
Well, I'd like him to answer, just so it's clear.
Probably not.
Okay. And then the long, slender, rectangular, dark purple building right below the employee housing on applicant 8 that we just talked about, that's proposed to be additional either hotel or apartments.
That's correct.
Do you know what phase or if there is a phase for any of those additional dark purple structures that we just went through?
Those would be after phase 1, but that's to be determined.
Okay, and again, those are in approximate locations of the proposed structures, not the exact.
Correct. But the owners would pick those locations and thought that made sense with the flow of the property.
Okay. And again, there is gonna be someone else that's gonna be testifying as to what the existing and or proposed uses are for the white structures on applicant 8 as in association with the resort complex, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Aside from the purple structures that you just took us through on applicant 8 and the white structures, the white existing structures that are depicted on applicant 8, are there any other structures depicted on applicant 8, either proposed or existing? Meaning structures, meaning buildings?
There are no other structures shown on this sketch.
So is it your testimony that there are no other structures being proposed as part of this conditional use application?
The pink areas represent areas where additional resort buildings could be constructed. It's the intention that additional resort buildings will be constructed in the pink areas.
But not as part of this existing conditional use plan identified as applicant.
There are no additional buildings shown on the plan, but the intention is that there would be existing other resort buildings constructed in the pink areas.
So additional potential buildings and or uses in the future.
Correct, that are listed in the application.
Okay. But again, none of them are depicted on applicant.
But they're only depicted as pink areas.
And, but no structures are depicted. No structures are being
The structures
proposed.
themselves are not shown.
Okay.
Other than ones we discussed.
And is it fair to say on applicant 8, the red hashed line, below that first red hash line is the C1 district,
Correct.
and above that red hash line until the next red hash line is the R2 district,
Correct.
and then above that second red hash line, it's the R1 district.
Correct.
And not much, if any, of this parcel is in the R1, is it?
It is not.
Okay. Would you agree that the majority of the area within the R2 district is either, if I'm looking at applicant 9 and applicant 8 together, would you agree that the majority of the property in the R2 depicted between applicant 8 and applicant 9 is either in the area that's either green and or within the blue hash line, which would be, would you say, undevelopable because of natural resources?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Let me ask you this, the green area, was it your testimony that those are wetlands or other natural resource protected areas?
Correct, yeah.
So is it fair to say that the green area above, well, the green area in the R2 is protected land that's not developable?
We're not planning on developing that, right?
Okay. Would you agree that the majority of the land in the R2 area is either that green land that's not developable or steep slopes? When looking at applicant 9 and applicant 8 together.
A large portion of the area on the north side of Lower Lakeview Drive has steep slopes.
But again, would you agree that the majority, if not all of the area, I'm saying in the R2, but you're saying above Lower Lake?
In the R2, sure.
Would you agree that the majority, if not all of the area above Lower Lakeview Drive and or the property within the R2 district is either steep slopes or the green non-developable area that you've identified in applicant 8?
I would say it's a significant portion is either steep slope or green, yeah.
Okay, have you done any calculations as to how much of the steep sloped area could be developed based upon the Middle Smithfield Township's ordinances?
We have not.
Do you know if the applicant is proposing potentially in the future any construction or development in the R2 district above the Lower Lakeview Drive?
We'll have testimony on that coming up.
Do you know?
I know,
If you don't know, so I want to make sure it's your answer for that.
we've discussed trails and passive recreation in that area. I don't, but I'm not saying that's, what they're limiting themselves to, or that's your own intent, but in our discussions, it was passive recreation.
Okay. And would you agree that there's no proposed new buildings proposed in the R2 district when you characterize as above Lower Lakeview Drive on applicant 8 as part of this conditional use application?
We are not showing any new buildings in the R2. There's some existing employee housing in the R2.
Right, the small white squares, I think there's 3, maybe 4 of them.
4 of them, correct, yeah.
Okay. And you're familiar with the ordinance? The specifically, I guess, Division 61, which is the resort complex,
Yes.
right? Would you, is it your testimony that what's depicted on applicant 8? Would you consider that the fully coordinated site layout as being proposed as part of this conditional use application? That's what I'm, does that make sense?
No.
Well, what I'm reading is if you look at 6130 master plan,
Okay.
and I think it's what Ben read earlier, any new resort complex, commercial resort development submitted for approval after the enactment of the section shall have fully coordinated site layout. So my question is it your testimony that this applicant A shows the fully coordinated site layout as what's being proposed in this conditional use application? Meaning the purple structures and the white structures that we just went through.
The full build out, the intent is not to limit the full build out to what is shown in the purple and the white. We are showing areas that will be developed for the resort and areas that will be preserved.
So is this applicant, does it not show the fully coordinated site layout as intended in the future?
It does not show all of the buildings that will be constructed in the future. It shows areas that they plan to construct a resort.
And I think you testified the trail system that's being proposed as part of this this application. The trails are gonna follow the roads depicted on applicant A,
The trails will follow the roads, correct?
and the roads, the internal roads being the dark gray lines throughout applicant A.
Correct.
Are any of those roads new or are they all existing?
They're new driveways.
They're all new?
You said gray? Red. Dark.
Well, there's dark. Why don't you tell me, you describe them as you see them, maybe I'm looking at
So
them.
the light gray is existing. The dark gray would be new, and by new, I'm also referring to the main entrance, which would get reconstructed.
Okay. So all the dark gray are the new proposed internal roads,
Correct.
and the light gray are existing. And it's all proposed to be macadam or asphalt,
Yes,
and the pathways or the trails you've indicated are only proposed to go along the internal roadways.
that's what we're showing. I don't want to say there wouldn't be other ones constructed though, but as of now, all that's planned is along the driveways.
Are they depicted on this plan?
We do not have I'm sorry, they're in, it's the dash, they're dashed for yet another purple color that's dashed along the edges of the driveways.
Okay. Are there any trails proposed between buildings on the property, or is it all just along the roads?
I think that's to be determined. There may be additional trails added, but I don't know.
And I think you answered before, with respect to stormwater management, have you done any investigation or calculations with respect to the impervious surface being proposed or the drainage on the site?
We've reviewed the drainage areas and depicted, and not depicted on the plan, but delineated drainage areas, but we haven't done detailed calculations.
And is that because the dark purple proposed structures is there square footage, approximate square footage associated with those on the plan?
We haven't listed the plan.
I'm
Oh, you
sorry,
do?
we have
We have
them.
not listed square footage on the plan.
Okay. And is it fair to say it's hard to figure out stormwater management if you don't know the square footage of the impervious surface being proposed?
We would need to determine parking sizes and all the impervious needed in order to do stormwater management.
Okay. There's no, the road system, there's no additional, I see the new dark gray is the new proposed internal roads, correct? But
And
there's,
to be clear, we're showing where you could put roads. This isn't set in stone where the roads will be. This is a concept of where roads could go.
okay. But I don't see, are there any new proposed parking facilities, any new proposed parking areas?
There will be.
Are there any new proposed parking areas shown on applicant A?
No, they would be within the pink areas.
Do you know the adequacy of the existing parking for the resort?
If there's enough existing parking for the existing buildings, you mean? I haven't done a calculation on that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I think before we see the board has any questions before.
You might help the board. It relates to their ordinance. In your review of the requirements on the Saldo rescheduling, is there any requirement you show proposed buildings at all?
There was not.
That's my question.
I was just, I see a lot of blocks for employee housing. So do you have a guesstimate as to how many employees you intend to house? How many units that would be? Because there's several blocks on here, both existing, right? You have the existing
Yeah, for
up
existing,
there,
very
and then you
small.
have the purple one.
And there's a purple employee housing area there.
Just wondering.
He's not the right person.
Okay, all right.
We can bring
Yeah.
it, provide that.
And then on the hotel, just curious, how many stories is it gonna be or units,
Well,
do you think?
that's a future land plan issue. We understand through your miscellaneous provisions of your zoning ordinance that because of this location near 209, it can go to 5 stories. So far, that has not yet been proposed, and whether it does come in as part of the land development,
I'm sorry, try it at the end.
that will come in as part of the land development plan.
Okay.
Any questions from the board of this witness at this time?
You done?
Yes,
Here on the pink area to the left, I'm not gonna. You have that box there, the white box that says that too could be employee, what's the, I mean,
Resort units.
you're gonna have resort units and or facilities consistent with resort. Okay, that's basically, okay. The golf course goes away, right? Okay,
I'm sorry, what was the answer?
That's the plans that the golf course would go.
and I also see in the existing entrance of 209, you're talking about a gated welcome center. But it's ahead of the two uses that are on 209. Is that the intention, is to gate off the entire resort?
Yeah, it'd be gated.
So these uses adjacent to 209 would not be accessible from 209 only through your drive?
They would be accessible, you would just stop at the door.
Right, but through your driveway, right?
Yes,
So
right,
it's not
there would be, right, there would be an entrance on each side of our driveway. It would be through our main driveway.
Okay. And just as a general question, I don't know if you're the right guy or the next guy or Charlie or whoever. Is there some sort of perspective or prospectus that would tell us what the master plan is? You know, I mean, we get it. I mean, there's employee housing all over this place, but I mean, but what is the overall goal? I mean, do you want to have X number of hotel rooms? Do you want to have, you know, X number of meeting spaces, that type of thing? Just so we can get a general idea of, you know, what's the end game here, you know?
We can provide that with a different witness, obviously.
Okay, because I think that would be helpful. I mean, you know, just so we can sort of understand, you know, listen, it's a nice property and, you know, we hope it flourishes, but, you know, just to get an idea of what's going on or what the intent is, that's it. That's all I got.
So again, Adam, you're probably not the best witness to testify specifically about the proposed uses in each one of those structures or the overall kind of master use of the resort.
Correct.
Because right now, it's on applicant aid, it shows a lot of those rectangles are either hotel or apartments, right? in the convention center, but not really specifically the overall use, right?
Correct, and just to be clear, one of the reasons why we showed the hotel and apartment use is because it is a conditional use in the underlying zoning district. So I know during our previous discussions, you mentioned that was the concern.
For clarification, so you were saying that the intent was to show all uses that are proposed that are not permitted by right, the underlying zoning district.
And which would those be? Just the hotel, apartments, and then employee housing?
The apartments,
Apartments and employee housing?
I don't know that employee housing is part of the resort, so I'm not saying that is not permitted by right, but the apartments are conditional use.
Can I ask you this? Before we go on to the next witness, you can hopefully provide some testimony of uses, but is the reason you identified, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 at least of the purple rectangles on applicant 8, is the reason you identified those as hotels or apartments just because that use is the one that's identified as a conditional use? Meaning it could be any other use? Is that what you're saying?
Meaning what could be any other use?
Meaning that those 4 purple rectangles could be any other use. Is that what you're
It's
saying?
the intention is that those could be either hotels or apartments.
But that's it.
Right.
Okay. And I misunderstood what you were,
Hotel is permitted, apartments are conditional.
okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Apartments are conditional use, John, I understand that, that the idea of apartments, are the long-term rental type thing?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, I just want to verify.
It's not clear, we had a debate as to what's the difference between a hotel and apartment complex.
Mhm.
And I don't know if there is a difference, because hotels these days have kitchens and all that stuff too,
Well,
so.
you haven't been sworn in. And I think there is a difference. It's really the length of stay. Right? But I suspect you're going to have someone testify as to the uses here, right?
Well, the next person who's going to testify shortly is Joe Edmund, who will talk about a lot of the changes in the flood plan. What's been removed and so forth.
But just going back to the purple dashes real quick, they simply are just purple dashes. Right, other than the purple circle, which is already existing, all these other things are not even, they're just a marker, they're just a marker for something. Like a monopoly hotel,
Well,
doesn't necessarily show what it is, it's.
a building roughly that size that, whether it gets considered an apartment dwelling or a hotel, I mean, certainly the hotel will be throughout the property.
Well, let's think, they're not even to scale, that's what I'm saying, they're just a dash or a dot. Because the circle, I know how big the circles are, they're existing, and you can't put a circle in the hotel in the front. So you'd be 5 stories tall, but no bigger than this room. So they're just dashes and dots, they're not anything more than that. Am I correct?
So there was thought that was put into the size of the rectangles that are depicted for hotel and apartment. And the circle is just, those 3 buildings are existing.
Yeah, that's what I'm referencing.
Yeah, so those 3 are
I
existing.
know how big they are already, I've seen those, so.
Yeah,
You're not.
We will address that in the next witness.
Why don't we, I think you testified at the last hearing, but you want to swear him in, just didn't. Did you testify?
I was sworn in, but didn't testify.
Oh, you were sworn in, but didn't testify?
Give me a time last time, so.
Okay, so let the record reflect, please identify yourself. But
Sure.
just have the record reflect that he's previously been sworn in.
Yeah, Michael Lockman.
Take the name of the record you did. Where are you employed?
Various Associates,
What capacity?
landscape architect.
Did you? That's my request for fairly. You yourself?
I did.
Copy. And then this would be.
I think we're up to 10.
Now.
I think we're up to 10.
What's that?
What was the last exhibit? Was
We
it
did
10?
8, 9, 8.
Eight.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll have one more.
I'm slow.
Thank you, Sue.
Okay, I guess one question that is, you have testified before the body before, but not.
Yeah.
The, what has been marked as, applicant exhibit 10, is that your?
It is,
And you are a good young state architect.
in the state of Pennsylvania.
You've got experience in the state planning, on land planning.
I do,
Your firm is employed, large investments.
we are.
And what purpose generally are you involved in this?
I'm assisting Adam in the civil group to help, prepare the exhibits for you, so if you wanna yell at somebody for the colors. So, sorry.
Who do we yell at for the size?
The 11 by 17 is just, out of necessity, but, the overall plan.
I'm using my cell phone as a magnifying glass.
We did provide a digital copy, so hopefully it's a little easier to zoom there.
Thank you.
And, you're involved in the preparation of conditional use plan dated.
Yes,
Presented as applicant's exhibit A4. And we prepared and involved in preparing the sketch plan, which is now applicant's exhibit A8.
yes.
In doing your review, did you go through what parts of the Smithfield ordinances did you go through?
As far as the ordinance go, really, honed in on Division 61 pertaining to the master resort project and conditional use application. And then obviously that, parlays into the saldo requirement for the sketch plan to meet the master plan, requirement within 61 of, it's, section 170-91 for the sketch plan requirements.
And do those sketch plan requirements require you to show the proposed buildings?
It was not listed, no.
You are familiar with the resort property,
Yes,
and you have all property.
yes,
Does the sketch plan show setbacks along the perimeter of the property lines?
yes,
And are they sized based on what joins the property?
they are.
Now, there's been prepared a narrative, which comes for narrative, which is included in the application. And, you know, copy it.
Free to take it on them.
And this could be action of the weapon. Comparing this version application, the conditional use plan, what changes have been made to the prior proposed uses?
So we really honed in on reducing the laundry list of uses, because that was a request by the supervisors, so to provide clarification that the owner wasn't intending to go after every listed use possible. The use has really been pared down and then cross-referenced with the base zoning permitted and conditional uses.
And is there on this narrative, is there a page that shows explicitly potential uses?
Yes, so the last page of the narrative provides a breakdown of the existing uses in each zone, as well as the proposed uses.
And does this show the use categories based on chapter 200, section 3, table of use regulations?
It does.
And are each of these then identified as either permitted or conditional use?
They,
And are there any in the R2 zone proposed as there are conditional uses?
none that are proposed.
And in the C1 zone, of the ones that have not been speaking, are there any that are conditional use solely?
So the resort buildings B2 are conditional use. I believe that is the
But that also is permitted use or characterizations.
correct.
In preparing this plan and showing the proposed apartment / hotel buildings, can you give us a rough idea of how big each of those buildings is?
Yeah, so the general footprint was taken from an existing hotel that's about 70 feet in depth and about 260 feet in length. Roughly.
That's the one on 209?
Yeah, any of the buildings that are the long rectangular are the 70 by 260.
Okay.
The ones that immediately adjacent to 209 are 70 by about 120.
You've been involved in this. Do you have a knowledge of the use of the existing buildings or everybody else?
Peripherally, I think the owners can probably speak in a greater level of detail to what the existing uses are in each individual structure.
You have an opinion as to whether the resort overlay plan meets the salary requirements? Let's get it.
Yeah, we went through and checked all the boxes that were required.
You have an opinion as to whether the application in the plan meet the requirements in the zoning ordinance, 61. resort.
Yes.
I have nothing further at this time. I did want to ask you one more question. Employee housing, which you are showing resort employee housing in both the zone and the R2 zone. What is that characterized as? What page 1 each two?
Page 1 are accessory structures and page 2 are accessory uses.
And you believe that those employee housing is accessory use to a resort?
I think so.
I have nothing further than this time. This witness.
Yeah, I have some more questions. This updated narrative, for the potential uses in the C1 zone, just wanted to clarify, I think the prior, application materials also included townhouses, resort units. Has that been removed from the list? It's not, I'm not seeing it on there.
It's not shown on here, and that particular use has been removed.
Okay. Maybe I'm missing, the helipad that was previously listed isn't on here as well, is that no longer included in the application?
No, it's conditional use in C1, but at this point, the others aren't looking at pursuing this. They understand that they've got the right to come back in as a conditional use on the base zoning if they'd like to.
Okay. Let's see here, there's a question I thought of earlier, it's kind of related, but the wetlands that are shown on this plan, was there a formal delineation done, or was this, because I think the note just says it was kind of an informal present
Right,
absence?
Correct, it was not formally delineated.
Okay, so approximate locations of anticipated wetlands, okay. And then I think the last question I have here, so the second paragraph, it says it is not possible to establish a phasing plan for the rest of the resort until the detailed engineering is completed. A new highway occupancy permit is obtained from PennDOT, from PennDOT, and an NPDS permit is issued by PADEP. In your experience, that's been the order that you need to get the permits issued before a phasing plan gets done?
I mean, that's a simple question, but yeah, typically, if you don't have an HOP, you don't have the project.
But, so you're not doing the planning phase prior to the actual
I mean,
design?
we'll have to meet the requirements of an NPDS permit.
Okay,
Go through the motions with that, but
Okay.
anything over 1 acre is required for NPDS, so.
okay, I guess I was just wondering, so you're not starting with a conceptual phasing plan design until after you've done detailed permitting?
No, I think at this point, we were given the information that the owners want to pursue and potentially, the next 10 years say that we're not going to add inflated areas that aren't going to be developed. So at
Okay,
that point, I think NPDS permits for 5 years.
I'm sorry,
An NPDS permit typically is about a 5-year permit unless you get an extension, so. At that point, it kind of puts them in, either they close it out and reapply later, if they know what the potential development is at that point.
okay.
So what you just said, I think, is it's not abnormal to secure an HOP from PennDOT before designing a plan for phasing, is that what you said?
Well, we're not in the phasing aspect of it, I think. But as Adam stated, he's looking to get the HOP is the first phase, and then, there's 2 buildings adjacent to 209 are identified as the first phase of development, so.
So the HOP, as you understand it, will just be based upon the existing structures and the proposed phase 1, which are the 2 small rectangles and the access road on 209.
Not that I'm aware of, but I think Adam can probably speak a little bit more succinctly to the requirements of the HOP. The resort currently functions, with its entrance, in the existing resort uses, so.
Yeah, I think the gist of the question, just specifically with the driveway, right, is that the permitting and the design parameters, again, I understand it's not detailed design at this point. It's more so just how this is being presented as if, there shouldn't be some sort of conceptual master plan that's being done prior to more detailed engineering, which is, we're not asking for an HOP application at this point, we're not asking for an MPS permit, but this is insinuating that those things would be coming prior to a more not fleshed out, but like conceptual layout for what the eventual resort looks like. The problem is, like, for a PennDOT permit, the anticipated traffic, whether it's low, medium, high volume driveway, is dictated on the anticipated trip counts. So unless you're going into this assuming that you might be ripping out a low volume driveway for future phases to go to medium, to then go to high. I don't know, it's just, from a planning standpoint, it seems out of order from how it's typically laid out, if that makes any sense.
You want this from that to further testify as to higher occupancy permit and BDS. Go through the.
I mean, I don't know who prepared the narrative here,
The joint.
the joint effort, okay.
And so the record is clear, the question was who prepared the narrative, what's been marked as applicant 11, And I believe the response from Attorney Boyd was it was a cooperative effort, assuming between Adam Smith and the current witness.
And also the owner.
That was the only question I wanted to ask.
Okay. Michael, is it fair to say the current plan is the revised plan applicant A currently before the board?
Yes,
The prior plan that was presented at the last hearing is no longer relevant?
the big colored squares with all the permitted uses are listed. I think we've got a copy of it.
But that's what we're focusing on now for purposes of this application is what's now been marked as applicant A.
Right.
I want to make sure we're all reviewing and considering the current and proposed conditional use application plan, which is applicant A,
Yes.
not the prior plan from the original application.
No.
Okay. And I think you testified, I think you said you think, resort employee housing is a permitted accessory use.
I would say that it falls under that as far as if you're gonna quantify it as, a use, it would be an accessory use to the resort.
Okay, do you know anything specific with respect to the actual resort use, the overall resort use being proposed for the property? Meaning how it's gonna operate?
That would be a question for the owner.
Okay. And aside from what's depicted on applicant A, there's nothing additional being proposed as part of this application at this point, correct?
Not of this.
Okay. And what's been marked as applicant 11, is it your understanding that this is now an updated current list of the proposed uses that are. Well, let me ask you this, are all the uses referenced on applicant 11, the last page of applicant 11, are all of those uses referenced or identified on applicant A?
The ones that are listed, no, but they are permitted by right of base zoning.
Okay, but again, are not all of those uses are depicted on applicant A or identified on applicant
Right.
A? Are you the appropriate person to ask where these additional uses are proposed or the area they're being proposed on applicant
I think at this time that it's not requested that, we identify the building and a use for that area. It's not being pursued by the owners for development at this point, but they understand that they still have the right to move forward based on the base zone, and that the resort overlay basically extends them additional uses.
A? Okay, but again, are you saying not all of the uses identified on applicant 11 are depicted or shown or identified on applicant A?
Correct.
Okay. And do you know why I know the concern is detailed engineering plans is not what the applicant wants at this time, but is there any other reason why the uses aren't specifically shown kind of where they're intended to be on applicant A?
As far as proposed uses,
Yes.
they're not looking to develop any improvements at this time that they know of to show that level of detail.
And are you the appropriate witness that testifies that the uses of the existing structures depicted as white on applicant
Yeah, we could probably attest to that a little bit.
A? You don't have the knowledge with respect to the existing uses and where they're at?
Generally.
Okay. All right. On applicant 11, the potential uses list under the third page of applicant 11 in the R2 zone. I believe Mr. Smith testified that given the restrictions up there, the steep slopes and the natural resources, that it was primarily gonna be, it looked like maybe like outdoor trails or outdoor something. The resort employee housing referenced on the third page of applicant 11 under potential uses in the R2 zone. Is it your understanding that those are only the existing structures that are in that R2 zone?
No, I think it was the fact that we didn't do a detailed review of whether or not we can get access in there, if we can be granted an HOP for an additional driveway. So I think there is that level of engineering that hasn't been reviewed, but stating that, you know, they would, if they can, have that use as a permitted use.
Okay, so if you look at applicant 8 and you see the dark gray internal road that goes up to, it looks like the Lower Lakeview Drive. Looks like it connects to maybe the existing driveway to those existing employees.
Yeah, I believe there's a gravel driveway that.
Is it your testimony, you don't know if that's gonna be permitted by PennDOT? Is that what you?
That's existing, I'm saying a new driveway access off of.
Beyond what I'll say, behind those existing structures in the R2 district on applicant A?
We haven't really reviewed it in the level of detail, whether those areas can be developed or not.
Okay. And then same question, applicant 11, third page of applicant 11, the utilities in the R2 zone, do you have any idea what those would be?
I mean, there's existing water towers that are up there.
So that's what that's referring to?
Yeah, it's a permitted use.
So, but nothing proposed new?
There's no.
Okay. And campsites, do you have any idea where in the R2 that would be proposed on applicant?
No, I think it was just listed as an outdoor recreation use. That's a non-temporary structure, that if they would like to have their, people that are patroning the resort have, you know, daytime use of that area.
Okay. And then the resort units detached in the R2 district, do you have any idea where those would be proposed? Those would be proposed, not existing? I'm still looking on the third page of applicant 11. Under the section of potential uses subject to engineering and permitting within the R2 zone. The one right below campsites, it has resort units detached, B9, which is single family detached dwellings.
Right.
Do you know where those would be proposed in the R2 district on applicant?
I think we already touched base on that one, stating we haven't done any detailed engineering or review to see where, but if possible.
Okay.
That was why that was listed.
If I would ask you the same questions with respect to the potential uses subject to engineering and permitting on the third page of applicant 8 for the C1 zone, is it fair to say that your response would somewhat be the same? That you don't know specifically where all of those uses are being proposed in the C1 zone?
Right, I think it was more just listing the uses that the owners would like to potentially achieve in the future, but at this point, that is a long-term goal.
Okay, so outside of what's identified on applicant 8 as the dark purple rectangles, we'll call them, there's no other real identified specific uses within the pink,
No.
other than the existing structures that are depicted as white. Okay.
One more question. There's a dark green boundary to a good portion of the site. Seems to be shown as landscape buffer. You just briefly, for the record, just talk through that and your understanding of the adjacent uses.
Yes, that was our graphic portrayal that we are feasibly able to buffer residential. Adjacent residential to proposed residential internal to the site would require a 50-foot rear yard setback for any buildings, and then the vegetative buffer, landscape buffer would be a 40-foot wide of the requirement, based on your ordinance. And that would entail either existing vegetation if the trees are in good health, or, supplemented vegetation that meets the performance requirements within the South End of the ordinance.
Yeah, with the intention of providing a visual screen.
Did board members have any questions of the witness?
Not
No.
at this time.
Anything else with this witness, Mr. Mayor?
Reiterate again that, in your examination of the South Road for sketch plans, you saw no requirement to show any buildings except for the system buildings.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question, just because he asked that, okay? If you look at section 6130 of the ordinance, where it says master plan. The applicant shall provide sufficient information to show the feasibility of the development. The methods of traffic access. The approximate location of various uses by category. Right, further down in D. Shall have fully coordinated site layout, stormwater management, utilities, trails, parking and traffic access. Is it your testimony that the plan depicted as applicant A does that?
From a feasibility standpoint, yes, we are showing that it's dimensionally feasible from a sketch plan. From an engineer standpoint, of whether or not it will function beyond this is land development side of things. That
Okay,
will be determined.
I'll give you that. It does show that with the purple, the dark purple and the white, right?
Correct.
But there's nothing else shown. So what you just said, it potentially does show the feasibility of the dark purple structures, which are proposed, in the white structures, right? But nothing else. Doesn't show the feasibility of anything else, right?
Nothing else is being proposed this time.
Okay, fair enough.
May I ask a question now? Are we proposing in the loop over there that there will be resort units and facilities?
Potentially in the future.
But they're part of the plan, and you have determined that we reshape the road there to accommodate them.
Right.
So why aren't they shown on applicant
Because that would be a building, you don't have to show it, it's sketching.
In section 17091 for the sketch plan
I'm
standards.
sorry, Ben, start again.
Sorry, section 17091 includes, it's the last item for sketch plans, any and all other significant data. Like, I understand it's kind of a broad catch-all, but the buildings does not fall under significant data to be shown for a sketch plan.
But if you can't figure out what they're gonna be, until you engineer it.
I think you're getting the drift that the township's still looking for a little bit more. If you're looking for
I
more,
haven't got the drift of the supervisor.
understood.
I'm sorry, we have or
Have
haven't?
not.
Okay, anything else from the board of the witness at this time?
Not in this time.
Okay. I believe you were told that.
In your right hand, you do solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Take your name.
Vipul, VIPUL, GOP,
I'm sorry, can you say that?
GOP, ANI,
And the first
You
one.
were here.
VIPUL,
And you were here representing the owner of the property.
that's right.
And, are you prepared to, you've heard a lot of questions about future plans. Are you prepared to discuss that with supervisor?
Absolutely. Understand.
Yes, one question that came up is, employee housing, how many employees do we need to house on the property?
Directly related to how much business you're going to do, how much revenue, how many rooms. So I guess better, more the better, but normally a resort this size would employ 50 to 100 employees.
All of them live on site or some live off?
Not all of them. This is a 24-hour resort, so you will have night people living and day people commuting, so not all from the site.
You give supervisors an overview of what you have planned for the resort. And I guess first of all, let's start with the existing buildings.
Sure.
What are they used for and what are you going to use it for?
Absolutely. Currently, five building, which is what they used for Roman towers. These are the living units, 2 stories, like a house, 20 of them. Then you go in here, these are the same units, just like the hotel type units. This is a pro shop. This is where they would rent out the canoes and the golf carts and all that stuff. And you go down here, it's not shown, but you have a beach and lake access with a speedboat and canoes and all that stuff. There's a nice walking trail that goes all around. This is the main building. It has restaurant, dining room. It has a retail shop. It has a ballroom, indoor swimming pool, fitness center, and normal resort facilities. And then you have this, what we call lakeside villas and resort units. These are all 2-story, again, that's resort units, different types. Round buildings, resort units, pie-shaped, each one 8. These are resort units, all of this. All along here are waterfront villas, 3 stories. Deck facing. And this is the maintenance building, storage building, maintenance building. Yeah, these are 4 buildings, but they have 8 units, so 16 employees.
I'm sorry, what was the last?
16 employees.
Okay.
Here.
About their vision for the resort.
Yeah, thank you for pointing all of that out. About how many vacationers would you accommodate? Like, what is
Currently, we
this,
have-
what is the scope?
So like currently, we have 180 rooms.
Mhm.
They're all under remodel. It's a huge undertaking. Each unit is getting remodeled. So that's gonna take us into well into 25. And we'll then remodel all those units. 2 per unit, that's 360. You have a corporate sales meeting in here, or you invite something corporate Fortune 500. We estimate we need 400 rooms, maybe 500. Yeah. So the goal would be to build units in phases, get them absorbed, see the business, and then you know. But it's not just units, you have to understand, in a resort in this day and age, you create a facility and then you put living units around it. We all have been to Cancun maybe, and you have resorts, units right on the beach. You have a swimming pool, there are units near swimming pool, so basically facilities and resort units go hand in hand. That's why first thing we want to do is build spa wellness building. But then we don't want those folks walking all the way from there, so you put living units nearby. So that's at the entrance.
So you have 180 rooms currently,
Currently, yes, that's what we're planning to do.
and you're gonna need to be at 400, and then that's including the one in the front and the spa, and then probably the other big building you'll need to put up at the same time. Because if you're gonna have 400 rooms full of guests, you'll need to have a space for them to congregate outside or for meetings.
That's our projection.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean, hope we can put 400
Yeah,
units
yeah.
tomorrow, wish. But you can build, and it takes time to build number one, and then you market it, put it, get them occupied, and then you build more stuff. And business looks good, have we built more? It's resort.
I'm just saying it sort of has to go hand in hand, the resort units with the facility that you're building. I mean, the existing building is only so big, I don't know, you could put 800 people in there for dinner.
Correct. That's why the central ground building is taken out of units and it's being built as a
I'm sorry, the,
meeting room.
wait a minute, say that
The
again.
central ground building.
Central ground building,
Mhm.
keep going.
Yeah, and that's why it's been taken out and it's been built for exactly the purpose for building yoga meditation in space. All right.
So real quick, so if I heard you correctly, so you said. Not that this is an exact number, but you're eyeing somewhere between 400 to 500 is probably around your eventual goal to get to.
Correct.
Correct.
Right, you go through this, you build this, you absorb the 180 rooms, it tells me what the market's like. But my market research shows me, you invite folks like NVIDIA's of the world or IBM's of the world, 180 rooms are not. Do I need 5,000 rooms? No, this is not where it is. But it's a nice spot. Okay.
Do you have a sense of the adequacy of the existing like parking and amenities to the number of rooms that you currently have?
Absolutely. So we do not want the guests to drive around like crazy. So there'll be parking spot. And then the internal shuttle drive them around, just like a camping.
Just
Park
like,
your car, camping. Yeah.
okay, come.
So it's parking is one side, right? Facilities inadequate, absolutely.
So you're anticipating more of like a centrally located parking with a shuttle service to distribute people to their lodging, to the amenities. Okay,
Absolutely.
all right,
Yes. And it's not one central. Could be,
right. But it's not the model of, hotel building with parking within 20 feet for those specific units is what you're saying.
few,
Okay,
especially the ADA parking.
for like loading and unloading over ADA.
Unloading ADA parking that are required, whatever the land use requires me to do, yes. But overall, if they need to go and use a spot, we're not willing them to go drive around or use a pool, they're not taking their cars, it would be internal shuttles. Right, so it's not going to be a Disney where there are 10,000 cars parked and nothing, so it will be scattered around. The goal is to keep this area green as best as possible. I know you see that as pin, but that's on golf course right now, that's existing. So you just keep like scatter the parking around.
Some of these buildings are listed as hotels or apartments. What's your feel on those two uses, and are you leaning towards one, or is there a particular distribution you see between the two?
Honestly, that's from the experts' advice, but here's the thing, you have a wellness program. Some people may come in for 3 days, some may come in for a week. So I'm like, is it long-term, short-term? I don't know. I mean, you know, the report tell me, I don't know what the ordinance tells, so it's just before. So, but am I making them apartments and send, if it's hotel, resort, unit apartments, I usually, it could be apartments. Somebody wants to come in and stay 3 months, hey, I'm not going to.
So the pink area that's depicted as the existing golf course, you anticipate continuing using that as a golf course for now?
It has not been used as a golf course, but it's a huge money. Yes,
Okay,
but it will be,
We
you
know.
know, if I put that detention pond there, and I can put a walking trail around it. You know, you could elaborate more facilities, but it would be resort facilities with resort units
in the future.
in the future.
Okay. And you're familiar with what's marked as applicant A?
That's,
Correct, you're familiar with that?
yeah, I'm familiar.
And it's your testimony that no additional structures at this time are being proposed in connection with this conditional use application?
Hmm.
Okay. I was listening as you took us through the existing uses in the white, in the areas depicted on as white on the exhibit applicant And is it fair to say the majority of those, I think you said townhouses, hotel motel, lakeside villas, two-story resort units, the circular resort units, resort units along the waterfront, or resort units, they're places where people stay, right? Overnight guests. Okay. And there was a maintenance building, correct?
1, 2, 3,
It's kind of separated from everything else.
3 different on the outskirts.
And the kind of combined white structures along the lake that's restaurant. What were those uses again in that area?
Restaurant, you have a retail shop in there, right? You retail shop, you have indoor swimming pool, gym, ballroom, kitchen and dining room. And there's like a small auditorium, or you could call it, stage with city theater.
Mhm.
That's there, that's in there.
And then there's also the lake where there's water. I guess there's proposed to be like water activities, outdoor recreation.
It's there now.
Right.
So there, they used to do canoes and boats and speedboats and all that stuff.
Mhm.
They have jet skis that go around right now. Artificial snow making machines we want, so that is.
Are there any other existing, I guess, what we'll call activities or we'll call them draws for the resort stayers, the people that are staying at the resort themselves? Are there any other draws aside from the retail, the restaurant, the outdoor recreation on the lake? What else is currently there that we'll call the draw of the overnight guests?
Attraction. Basically.
Correct.
Right now, we're missing what corporates running where they go for peace of mind. So it's more for wellness.
And is that why the health spa is proposed as the phase one?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any, as part of phase one, or the immediately next phase of this,
Okay.
is there anything proposed to be an additional draw or specific attractive use that brings in the overnight guests at the property?
Conference center.
I'm sorry?
Yoga, conference center, yoga and meditation building.
And that's the kind of square shaped purple,
That's right.
kind of right above the lake beyond the existing facilities? Okay. Other than that convention center and the health spa, are there any other proposed uses that would be associated with what we'll call the draw or the attraction that brings in the guests?
Not from the building point of view, we have enough building at that point.
So when you say that, do you mean obviously the outdoor recreation, the walking paths, right?
Walking trails,
The water sports or the use of the lake,
sports,
correct?
sports. current-
She's taking down everything we say, so I'm not testifying, I want to get a feel as to what's being proposed, that's all.
Currently, there's sports there, we have tennis courts, we have courts, we have swimming pools, indoor,
I'm sorry, tennis courts,
we have tennis courts. Then we have water sports, we have golf right now, we have indoor outdoor swimming pool, we have basketball, lots of sports currently. And that's what will continue.
Okay, and then the other purple structures that are the proposed structures at some point, those are, the rest of those are related to where the guests would stay, correct?
Correct, the future resort units.
Okay. As part of this application, other than what you just testified to with respect to the convention center, the conference center, the health spa and the existing recreational facilities that are already on the property and being used. Are there any other specific proposed attraction type uses that you're proposing at this time?
No,
Okay. And not part of this application? Okay.
We've done an evaluation, like, do you have a sense of like what the maximum yield for a property like this is, like, do you know?
I have a huge finance department that takes care of it. All I know is there's a need, from within an hour from, Fortune 500. And they do nothing like this. They have to fly to Florida, they have to fly to Venice. We just building, it's a resort and we want to maintain and build a resort, upgrade it.
So you're saying currently you're renovating the existing one hundred and eighty rooms? And you said eventually maybe you'll need the 400 to 500. Do you have any idea we'll say the small purple rectangle towards the entrance on 209, and then the long slender other rectangles that are purple on applicant 8? Do you have an understanding as to how many units or how many rooms would be in each?
All I know is, I have a huge building code and all this land use regulations to serve whatever permits at that. Right, so sometimes you have to like, provide adequate parking, provide adequate, there's so much that goes in. It's hard to pinpoint how big, but it's definitely will maintain the current code. I'm not asking for any variance, so if I'm allowed 4-story height, we'll build a 4-story height, it could be 2 stories, depends on the market at the time. So for that, how big units, I need to know how big that spa building is going to. How many people, how busy that's, it's a one phase.
Okay, have you done this before?
Yeah, I've done
Have you built a resort like this before?
more than lots of businesses, yes.
Hotels, apartment structures? Okay. Is it your intent to keep? So is it fair to say that the attraction or the draw right now, aside from the outdoor recreation piece, is it fair to say that that's central at the lake in the existing restaurant retail structure right at the lake?
Not one, this is for wellness, so you can have yoga center right up there, spa center on the south side, so it's multiple.
Okay, I guess that's my question. So it seems like the conference center is proposed kind of in the middle, next to the existing restaurant and retail. And then you have the yoga center that's kind of also in the central area on Esplanade, but then you have the health spa down towards the Route 209 axis. Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason you don't want to keep all of those things centralized?
You know, experts that are telling me, once you do the PennDOT and do that road, that's what they will want you to develop first. But
Yeah, I guess we could have them talk about that. I'm not aware of that being the case or a requirement that PennDOT would have required the development immediately there. Is it possibly just for visibility from 209?
I'll refer to Betty, I said.
Okay.
And just one more thing, I think so you don't anticipate parking lots aside from ADA at all of the new proposed structures?
We do, but not yet to be designed building. So if I need 80 parking spots, we have for me there and 4 others, we want to make sure we comply with the land use. So at that time, we'll propose, say, hey, does this work? You want to be there, and if it's okay, fine. But I do not want guests riding around at Pondside. They come here for peace of mind, they don't want to drive. Take me around, or I will go here, shuttle picks them up, takes them there.
So guests of the resort, in order to use the spa or the yoga center, you need to be a guest of the resort, or would be also?
Oh, no.
Actually, that was my question too. I'm
Because
not
we-
sure.
Just, yes, resort, it could be a day client, you don't need to stay there overnight, come visit. Use the facility, use the restaurant for them.
I'm just thinking of the parking, and like you said, you want to keep it green, and I think that would be great. Our problem with the spot is if there was only 30 spaces out there, because you have 500 guests in the resort that you can get there. They all don't need to come and park there. I mean, I think it would be great to have a facility there without a lot of parking around it, just from a visual perspective from 209.
We use great, very those huge, beautiful land planners with decades of experience, and I'm sure they'll propose something nice. And when we bring it to you for land use permit, you'll get to review that.
So my question is piggybacking off of yours, Mark. And you may not know this yet. But would you consider, offering, I mean, you were talking about golf, pool, gym, a lot of water sports, a lot of sport and recreational activities. Would you consider offering day passes to residents or seasonal passes to residents to use it?
Absolutely.
So people could use your resort without being a customer of your spa or an overnight guest or anything like that.
Yes,
So this would be open to the public then, essentially.
yes.
Okay,
So if you have a motivational speaker, you don't have to be that guest, then you come, but then you can enjoy it.
mhm. Okay. Thank you.
My only question, just. What is what is your goal as far as the time frame to get to 500 rooms? If 500 rooms is sort of
That's
your
fine.
make or break,
10 years, but let me put it this way, it takes me a year. The more end of 25 to finish my current 180 rooms, that's a lot of undertaking, a lot of millions we spend there.
Mhm.
Then as once resort overlay is done, they start their and all this stuff, that only takes 2 years before I can.
right, you should probably leave from here.
Right.
Right.
Then it takes years to build first building, and then a year, so even if you do that, you have a decade worth of planning showing.
Okay. Thank you.
In order of witnesses, I'd like to make sure you have moved for the admission of all applicant exhibits 1 through 11.
It's applicant is 11 is the last one, for purposes of transcript, right? Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Right,
Anything
okay.
else?
Everybody good?
Other questions?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Didn't even check the Zoom. All right, well,
So
thank you
with,
very
yeah,
much.
just very quickly, Charlie. I'm sure you guys are aware, the board has 45 days to issue a written decision, based upon the record and the application. So, you'll get a written decision in 45 days.
I assume like the work is starting, you have a chance to comment on it and especially negotiate a condition for. Okay, Mark.
Here it is. Make it easy for him.
Does anybody in the public have any comments about it?
I'm just here to support the project, from the food pantry up in Stroudsburg. And, this organization has helped us out tremendously, and they're very involved within the community. And so for this past Thanksgiving and Christmas, they served 1,200 families, not people, families, which equated to about 5,000 people. And so we would really like to see this project here within the community to support the community, not just from a nonprofit perspective, but also the amount of jobs the next summer that this will parlay into. So, you know, it's a good project.
Can I have your name, ma'am, please?
My name is Debbie Campbell, I'm sorry, from Christ Episcopal Church Food Pantry,
How do you spell Debbie?
DEBBY.
Thank you.
And where is,
My name will be.
Amen.
And I'll let that name speak first. John Teaser with Lee Decorating. We're currently the general contractor on site. And these people are great. They're willing to put a lot of money into these units and update them and upgrade. And they're generally just good people. I mean, I feel it's gonna be a great attribute to the community and the area. I just wanted to say, like, you know, we're in the process of renovating 40 units, 88 and 488 units. It's a long, they're in it for the long term. You're not gonna hit and run. So just wanted to,
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
Tietjen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I will tribute to,
Behind you.
oh, behind you first.
You're too slow, sorry.
My name is Edmund McLean. I'm a LED specialist. I'm doing a contract with these guys. I live right here in Great Bear. And by them giving me a contract, I was able to hire a few young guys from the neighborhood. So it's really turning out good. I believe it's gonna be a really good thing once they open. I'm looking forward to it myself. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Who's
You're
next?
up there.
I am the neighbor, our land abuts their land, so, obviously I have the interest in knowing what's going to happen. But I do have to say that, currently, they reached out to Habitat to Humanity and they've donated vehicles to them. And, they're donating a significant, donation to East Stroudsburg School District as of tomorrow. So their nonprofit is really interested in the community. And I'm interested in knowing how close those buffers will be. Oh, you're right, I'll be here.
Is there anyone else with a comment or question?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So Anil, Vivek here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
And your name again?
Vivek Ramana. Vivek, Vivek Ramana, Ramana. My question to Mr. Is it Gopal, Vipul Gopal? Have they done any such project in the past? And if so, where?
Been involved with hotel and resort developments in the past, such development, none. This is a concept which we're really missing. Everybody is after beach and casino, but we we need something that's corporate wellness for family. This is not an adult resort, it's a wellness for the family, right? And that's, we're missing that niche.
So what you're saying, this is your first type of in terms of project in owning this type of resort. Do you intend to make this into a retreat or just keep it as a resort?
The resort and multiple people in my group and they have different expertise. Now people bring different expertise, but it's a resort.
And then my other question is that, can you explain to me who is Raj Investments? Is it one person, multiple people? That's my question.
Multiple people, multiple owners and investors. It's a corporation.
I see. And how can we get the names of these people? Because I Google Raj Investment
That's
and
not
there's
germane
nothing.
to the conditional use. I mean, I think you're going down a road that is not within the purview of the supervisors, so.
Oh, no, I'm okay. I'm very sorry. I mean, but I'm just
He's
curious.
still allowed to ask.
You
his
can ask your
question.
questions,
Right.
agreed, but I think we're outside of the conditional use at this point.
All right, that's fine. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
I mean, he could have asked those very same questions under public comment on non-agenda items.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
He's allowed to ask the question. So, all right, any more questions or comments from anyone, including Zoom? All right, so there's been a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that, I think I'd like to call a 5-minute recess. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you. And if you're Is everybody ready to resume?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Are we still recording, Mrs. Michelle?
Oh, we have been.
Oh, okay, great. So that brings us to the treasurer's report.
Okay, make a motion to, from our general account, $151,270.76.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion for our fuel account, $54,102.40.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to pay $27,500 to listed EMS providers. And these funds will be reimbursed to the general fund once the 2025 EMS tax revenue is received.
Second.
Okay, so just to tag off of what Mike has said, Pat's going to look into that a little more for it because to avoid paying money out of the general fund and then reimbursing the general fund out of the EMS tax fund, that tax has a specific use for it. It's different than doing like the golf fund that we had, you know, or something like that. And I mean, I was looking over what had been paid out. I mean, we understand that you're getting Bushkill Emergency Corps is getting $17,875 a month. But then at the end in December, there was the LST tax, the local services tax. That's not the fire and EMS tax, but you were able to receive that, and then the balance of the fire and EMS tax. So when you add that up, it's like getting $17,875 a month for January, February, and March until we actually receive the tax funds.
So you're saying the final payment would be paying forward?
Well, no, I'm saying
No.
you've already received January, February, and March,
Yeah,
really,
that's what I just said.
because, oh, okay, then
But
they're saying the
that's
same
last
thing,
year.
only different.
That was last year's funding.
Correct, and that's
Right.
last year's money that was owed to you from the tax anyway.
Right.
So,
And then the same thing would happen next December, you know, for it. But anyway, the motion is to do this now. And Pat's going to go look into this further. Is that a fair statement?
Because I think what the intent is that this payment really is intended to come from the EMS tax.
Correct.
When they're receiving,
Yeah.
so.
correct,
So whenever you get those EMS tax funds in, this amount, whatever this amount is, I didn't look at it, but
Right.
this amount will be reimbursed to the township because paying it forward, so to speak.
Correct,
Does that make
and this
sense?
will likely occur for the next 3 months.
It would just be averaged over the course of the year, basically.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna look to make sure there's no, it might just be an accounting thing that we have to make sure is covered.
I agree.
Because
Because
that,
because
those tax
if
funds
not-
can only be used for certain things.
Right.
Because if it's not, then you would just wait until we receive the tax dollars, come in, but because you received a large payment, it was like over $78,000, between the monthly payment and the $58,000 left over from the fire and EMS and all of that, you're still getting, and I mean, you're getting, how is Smithfield paying you? They're paying you quarterly, I think.
And then they paid a big lump sum and then a balance.
Okay.
In December.
Yeah, so that's like $150,000 a year from them,
And about 100, less than 120.
for it. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. And then us, it was 275,000. So I'm just saying, if it's possible to wait until the EMS tax comes in to do it.
I
But
was gonna look into it
yeah, right, exactly.
as soon as possible.
And,
And the check is cut.
right,
Well, we
Yeah.
can check on it.
Yeah.
Because it might just be a reimbursed, which is what
Because we-
kind of happened last time.
Yeah, and we did this last year. I mean, it was the first year we ever did a fire and EMS tax for it, and we wanted to make sure that everybody had what they needed.
but maybe the amount that we're doing, well, not even maybe, it appears that the amount that we're doing monthly doesn't equate to the amount of funds that come in, so we shouldn't have 58,000 at the end of the year. It should have been distributed throughout the year.
And then wait till, and then
No,
wait till,
no, I'm not
April.
saying then wait, I'm saying,
until we get tax dollars.
well, we don't have to wait till we have tax dollars. If, like I said before, if the township didn't have funds to carry the township, we would get a TAN. We would get a loan to cover
The
us
tax
until
anticipation.
the tax money came in.
Mhm.
And that's how you fund the months with no income. Well, this would be this,
But we've never gotten a TAN since we've been here.
here we did,
Because we've
first
been,
year,
that was different. We were walking into a situation.
right?
So, and we're very proud of the fact, and we advertise that we've not done a TAN.
Absolutely,
So.
because it's good financial planning, correct. So that means we have enough funds to fund the EMS and the fire on schedule. And we don't have to wait for those funds to come in.
Well, what I'm saying is
If-
EMS and fire don't need a loan from us. They're getting the funds.
I look at it as an obligation of the township. We agreed to pay EMS on a monthly basis. We agreed to pay fire on a quarterly basis. If the fire funds don't come in by the time the first payment to fire is due, we're gonna have the same situation.
And so-
You're not obligated to make any payments until you get that tax, because the idea is the tax, when you get that, that's the distribution. The distribution is the next.
And
So
my-
I don't want you to look at it.
Okay, well, maybe we don't have a legal obligation, but I think we have a professional obligation. We committed to pay in these terms, whether it be monthly or quarterly, and I think we have a professional obligation.
I agree.
And I'm saying that if the money is budgeted by the EMS and fire companies, and they told us that they'd like to get paid twice a year when the tax money comes in.
Why last year when we put the resolution together, didn't it come up? Well, next January and February and March, they're not gonna get anything.
Correct.
That should have came up a long time ago, a long time before tonight.
We're not saying that they're not getting anything, this just comes down to a scheduling issue, a schedule of payments issue. And last year was the first year that we did fire and EMS tax. Had we done it in 2023, like it was originally suggested, we'd be past that hurdle, but we're not. And I'm saying, since the last payment that was received by Bushkill Emergency Corps added up to $78,000, that there's not an emergency, is there?
But how do you,
You know,
it's
Well, we
not,
can count on that monthly.
But you've received 3 months,
Well, we paid
Last
bills, we paid bills.
right?
You know, and since we've actually invested in the organization, because now we've had to purchase 2 trucks.
Mhm.
You have additional
Right.
people out? for
I have
paying,
additional
correct?
people, we got hit this week,
Um,
someone hit an ambulance. And fortunately, no one's out of work this time.
Are we paying SFM? We haven't gotten tax funds in yet. Are we paying
We
SFM?
don't have a special tax for zoning. We don't have a special tax for the golf
Correct.
course. We
But
don't,
we have the funds, so we're paying it.
Paying all of them.
Correct.
The one that we can't agree to pay are these 4.
we're not agreeing. It's just a scheduling thing and let Pat check into it. If we're
Okay.
allowed to borrow from the general fund to pay EMS and then reimburse the general fund from the EMS tax, that's all.
We've seen that, I mean, it
That's pretty
seems to
reasonable.
make sense if there's any common sense in government. Which
Yes, Ed.
obviously sometimes.
Question and a comment, the 78,000, that was basically the whole cut for the 20%?
No.
No,
All right, where does that fit in, Mr. Cleveland?
78,000 was the balance of the tax revenue compared to what you were already paid throughout the year,
Okay,
plus the LST tax, which we got at the end of the year as well.
So we took the account down to 0 for Bushkill, and then Ed is saying we should have left 51,000 in there. So that we had January, February, March's money without having the tax
No,
money.
no,
So
no,
every
I'm-
year we'll have a 3-month rollover.
I'm not
Is
saying
what-
that at all. I'm saying we made a payment and that equates to $17,000 a month. And we cannot pay you out of the
Well, no,
EMS.
that's what tax.
We cannot pay you out of the EMS tax because we don't have the EMS
I
tax.
understand what you're
So
saying.
it's gotta come out of something else. And I'm saying that it's a special tax just for that. That is unlike a fund.
But what if the 12-month payment was $25,000 a month? And we didn't have any funds at the end of December, then
Well,
what?
When we
We
had,
can't
when we had the
reimburse
cable,
the general fund?
when we did the cable franchise fee, we paid out according to what came in.
Correct.
We didn't forward money, we didn't guesstimate, we didn't say we're gonna get this much.
But
cable
we did
tax.
pay control center before the funds came in.
Well,
That was
that-
out of,
that- The control center is not paid out of the EMS tax,
they're paid out of the cable tax, they were,
the franchise fee, correct, correct.
and they were paid before we got the franchise fee income.
That
But,
was one,
but I wanna make it very clear. This is not a bill.
I'm not saying it's a bill, I
It's-
understand.
you have-
I
It's not an
understand.
obligation, it's a tax that's intended for a certain purpose.
Absolutely.
And you're distributing it as intended in the statute, meaning you get the tax in, you distribute it as the township, because it is a township tax. The township tax for a specific purpose.
Correct,
When you get that tax in, you distribute it as the township deems appropriate. To however many fire departments, however many EMS providers you have within the township, it's distributed as deemed appropriate by.
100%.
so
But
in all,
it's not a bill, I just wanna make it clear, it's not a bill, not an
I
obligation.
totally understand
It's a
that.
tax that you're releasing to those who it was intended to be released.
That's,
so, and
correct.
all I'm saying is you're getting $275,000 a year from us, you're getting about $150,000 from Smithfield.
Little
you know.
under 120.
Well, that's for you to
I
figure
mean,
out
I
with
know
them.
because that.
And this is just a scheduling thing, so if there's no EMS tax in the EMS tax account, because we don't have the taxes yet. It's, maybe there's a way to figure it out so that you can get paid when the taxes come in. Just like any other things that,
there's no any other things, that's what, I don't see any other example.
so a motion's been made, a second has been made, we've had the discussion,
Okay.
I think,
I'm letting you.
one
Yes.
more comment.
yes.
One of the big issues we've always had is that we never have a designated amount of money that we can plan on every month to pay the bills.
Correct.
Bills come due, and Debbie scrumps and scrounges and
Okay.
says, you know, we can't
So
pay
the
it now
plan-
because
so the-
there's no steady stream of money coming in.
And
So
that's
the
why
steady-
we sat here last year and agreed we would make monthly payments.
Right, and we made monthly payments to the tune of $17,875 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And in December, you received 58,000, which is the same thing as getting $17,875 a month for January, February, and March, and then we'll get our tax dollars in. That's all I'm saying.
Probably would have been good to know.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I mean, it's
well,
right.
this is-
Technically, we should have adjusted the $17,875
And
dollars.
we can always do that going forward.
Right, so maybe
let
that number
Pat-
should be $24,000.
Let Pat look into it. We've discussed it. This was the issue that came up. And a
Yeah.
motion's been made, a second's been made. We're not gonna not approve these checks for tonight. It's just a point. Okay, so any other comments or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And we don't have any sewer for tonight. So I believe that concludes your treasurer's report. Is that correct?
Yeah, I said a lot.
Okay, solicitors report.
There's two items listed on my report. One is the proposed nuisance noise ordinance. Do you wanna talk about that tonight, or you wanna wait for another night? I'll let it up to the board.
It doesn't look like there's a lot on here. I just see one blip on page 11. Huh?
So if you recall, I made some revisions. Since the last time we talked about this, based upon the Smithfield Township, I believe, ordinance. So what you have is likely the clean version. I think I previously circulated the track change version.
Right.
Do you want to talk through all the track changes? Or,
I think we did all of that already up until page 11,
okay,
right? Am I right?
I honestly don't remember.
I have a question. Why is Sundays and Easter included in the exceptions
Where is that?
throughout the whole table of allowable timeframes? Sundays and Easter are excluded.
Under exceptions?
Yeah. What makes Sundays a day that you can blow up fireworks and
Wait, where is that?
in the table?
Oh, and
There's a table in there somewhere. I don't have it. Do I have it with me?
Yeah, it's right on page 5.
okay. Well, no, on those days, the noise
Level can be 60
level is
decibels.
lower.
Right, but why on Sundays? Just to drown out the churches or something?
Wait, no. What do you mean?
Yeah, but I mean,
So
you can shoot
50
fireworks.
No, so you can make less noise on Sundays, Christmas Day, Easter. Easter's in here.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why is what,
Where is the exception that you're seeing?
hold on, I can find
One
this.
of five, table one,
But it's not an exception.
7 AM to 9 PM other than Sundays.
Right,
Right. So that's the 60 dB is for 7 AM to 9 PM other than Sundays and the holidays.
And
But then
that's,
right below,
it says 50 decibels, which is lower.
right, so it's saying,
9 PM to 7 AM.
but
That's not-
that's the time. It's intended to be the 50 dBA covers Sundays, Christmas Day. It's not just limited to the time, it's the entire day associated with those.
So you
I'm
can,
not,
you can, so on the 60 decibels, which is louder than 50 decibels.
right,
It says you can do that except for Sundays, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving.
On Sundays, is what Mike
yeah,
said.
why Sundays?
We can.
Well, why do you want it to be louder on Sundays?
What do you mean louder?
No, I don't.
60 60 every day.
50 decibels have to be including Sundays and, right?
No, it
The way
says,
this reads is the 60 dB is what would be permitted 7 AM to 9 PM. except for Sundays, Christmases, whatever.
And that's what
And
I'm saying,
then
why
the
would you want it
50
to be loud?
dB would be the limitation, which is a lower noise.
Mhm.
That would be permitted between 9 PM and 7 AM and Sundays, Christmas, so on and so forth. So if you don't want to include Sundays
I
in that
do,
exception, we can take
No,
that out.
I
You
do want
wanna
it quieter.
specifically spell it out, right? Is that the question?
No, it's right here.
Oh,
It
okay, I
says,
don't have it in front of me, so.
oh, I'm sorry, it says that you cannot be louder on Sundays, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, New Year's Day, Easter, Labor Day, Memorial Day.
Good thing you put New Year's Eve in there.
Yeah, well, that was my other question, you
Well, that's number three, at any lot line,
That's very
other
loud.
than number one and number two, above or amended
They can't be loud.
I guess
all
not.
times and days.
Yeah.
6
You're,
o'clock.
your
I would
question
challenge
is
anybody in this room.
Right, well, that's what I mean, it's specific,
60.
correct.
So that's why they have to.
Those people that are more
What
Some
are the
Right.
things the,
certified.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, I don't understand why we're picking on Sundays.
I still don't get
Oh,
it.
it's
It's saying,
I'll answer your
Specific
question.
day. of
Specific
the
day.
week.
If New Year's Eve is on a Sunday, you can't shoot fireworks.
That's the problem.
it's
And
saying
again,
you
I'm
can't,
not sure.
I don't understand what you're
Something will
saying.
stop them from shooting.
I don't think it's clear, that's my point.
It's saying from 7 AM to 9 PM.
Right.
You can be 60 decibels, unless
Oh,
it's a Sunday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, Easter, Labor Day, Memorial Day.
So
You
New Year's
cannot
Eve is
be-
on a Sunday, you
You
cannot.
cannot be that loud,
On New
that's
Year's Eve.
correct.
Tell me I'm not gonna be able to mow my yard on Sunday?
Is your lawnmower that loud?
Right.
No,
No,
because
with that
that's
dual
that's
engine.
not 60 decibels.
Four-wheel drive motor you've got there, Mark.
50 decibels. I still would challenge somebody to let me know how loud 50 decibels is.
Well, that's why Pat added the section on training,
Yeah.
and somebody's got to measure it.
They're gonna be measuring it because they can't tell from their ear alone what's 50 or what's 60.
Well, it also describes continuous noises like hand tools, which includes your lawnmower.
Yeah, except
And it
there is
says
an
that.
exception in lawnmowers, snow blowers, leaf blowers, household power tools.
Mark only has exception.
You're okay, you're okay.
So your wife can have you work all those times with a lawnmower.